open to answering all questions.
Without being too spoiler, obviously.
Right.
Larry, I've seen it all. Larry goes through the journey.
He does.
Several times.
Yes,
but,
he does.
What was it like, sort of just creating that character and developing Larry, knowing these different sides of him?
Yeah, I mentioned this in the panel, but the character isn't in the comic, so I was able to not. I'm a worrier, and I get anxious about how my character or the performance is going to be perceived, especially by fans, by passionate fans. Something like this, like a revered comic, a piece of intellectual property that millions of people adore. So that can keep you up at night. So I very smartly just stuck to Chris's words. He wrote some really brilliant scripts. This is a heavy, literally heavy. There's so much happening in this series, and it's not just, on the surface it's for young girls becoming young women, but that is layer one of 50 different layers, and so he made the show he just leaned into the ambitiousness of this series. So building the character was all about following Chris's words. I came up in the theater, so when you're a theater actor, there's no studio, there's no writer like whispering, you don't do lines unless you're doing a new play. The play is written, there's beginning, middle, and end. Honor that and get out of the way, basically, is what I tried to do. Yeah.
We just spoke to Adina a bit about, why maybe the old watch's perspective is like a valid one to like not want to rewrite the past.
Yeah.
Is your Rebel Alliance like fighting the old watch? And if so, what's their angle on why we should be able to change?
Yeah, I mean, their take is don't change anything because it benefits them.
Okay.
Because it keeps them comfortable, wealthy, and in power.
Okay.
And so the people who I think about, like how we talk about politics now, there are people who like love looking back on the 80s.
Yeah.
And saying it's this beautiful time and just like,
for
oh my
who?
God, it was so much fun. For who? For who? And that's their take. The way that time has unfolded up to this moment and in this moment has benefited them. So the standard time fighters are saying, hold on, there's a whole lot of other people who haven't been fed, who haven't been taken care of, who have been ignored, who've been thrown away, who've been sort of squashed. So it's fun to sort of play, I don't know, I guess just the underdog, who's pushing back against this enormous conglomeration of power. I'm just a guy in a barn in Ohio, Larry is. So it was fun to sort of play a small character trying to fight back against this, enormous power. And she's so good. She's so good. She has such weight and presence to her. My God. That was the first time I'd seen her watching the clips. She's so good. It was fun to go up against her. Yeah, not easy.
Oh, okay. So I know that you're not in the book.
Right.
You talked a lot about how you're trying to make it so that people aren't like, oh man, like you didn't do a good job. So what rules do you follow? Like what do you do to make it so that people enjoy your work?
Yeah. I try to not... A lot of actors worry about that. There's a lot of actors who are like, oh man, they worry so much about how they're going to be perceived. And their sort of everyday happiness is based on whether or not the audience is responding to their performance, whether it's like on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Like if a fan reaches out and says, oh, I loved you on that show, then that day, that actor who lives and dies by audience feedback has a good day. I try to live right here. I try not to get too wrapped up in how an audience is going to react, because I know I'm vulnerable to like making me feel great or making me feel bad. When I was really young, I was probably your age, I did a play and I read the review It was a big mistake because it was a bad review. And I turned to one of the actors and I was like, I read the review. It was like, you can read them, but if you believe the good ones, you gotta believe the bad ones. And so I was like, okay, no more reviews. I'm never gonna read another review in my life. So it's hard. It's hard to not take it personally if someone doesn't like your performance or the show that you're on, and just say, all right, maybe we'll get them next time. We'll see. But you're very vulnerable being out there. Well, that's just part of the job. As you get older, you adapt to it. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
It's obviously a very female-heavy cast. So talk to me about that dynamic being that well. We agree.
The boy.
How was that dynamic coming in and talk to us?
I wish this set wasn't like polar opposite of so many of my other sets, which are predominantly, old white men. I wish, but it was like night and day. It really was, and all the directors were women, and it made a complete difference. Camera operator was a woman, all hair and makeup, transportation, CG,
all the head
basically.
of departments.
What's that?
All your HODs, all your head of departments were women.
Yes, all of them.
Yeah.
Were all women. Carpenters and like every sort of wherever you looked, there was someone. There was a woman in power, and
Can
those
you kind
sets.
of elaborate, like, why? Like, I'm sorry to jump in, but like, what kind of difference are you talking about? Like,
There is when you're surrounded, and this was Chris and the producers, I think consciously making it more comfortable for the girls
Yeah.
to be in an environment surrounded, because sadly, I think men more than women are not as, and I am generalizing here, and this will come back to bite me, I'm sure, but they are not as generous and sympathetic and understanding to what it means to work on a team and be one part. The performer is one part of this piece. There was warmth, and sometimes not all sets are as protective of that, I guess. And I'm really parsing my words here because of the cameras.
Sorry.
The cameras are off.
It's a good
Why don't
thing.
you just say some of the positive attributes you saw in the women that were in power?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was this lesson that was being sent down to the girls, that women can run every department. And for them at 12, 13, 14, they get used to it. So the next job that they're on, when it's dudes and one woman, they go,
What
we're
the
all
hell?
the ladies.
Yeah.
And then that trickles up to producers and studios and networks, and they go, oh shit, yeah. No, we need to make this equitable.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference was a generosity, really, and a kindness and an understanding that sometimes isn't always there.
Thank you for sharing.